Okay. Okay. So we were doing chapter number 4, the market as a social institution. This is the first slide, right? Market. Now, market. What is market? A market is simply it can be any kind of market: a vegetable market, fruit market, or your gold market that's there in Gandhinagar. It's a mixed market, right? Marble market or any kind of market. So a market can be any kind of market, and a market always have. Uh, okay. So okay. So a market is a market. It can be any kind of market, right? Uh, and a market has got two perspective. We understand market from two different perspective. Either we can understand market from simple economic perspective, and the other way to understand market is to understand market from sociological perspective, right? So when we understand market, from economic perspective, then what does it mean? It means that we should first know that what is economy. We should know that what is that word economic or economic perspective is all about. It's important for us to understand what is economy. Look, economy is a state. Economy is a situation. Economy is a condition where production and consumption of goods and services takes place, right? Goods means all those things that we can see, clothes, vegetable, fruits, electronic gadgets, smartphones, refrigerators, ACs, and all those things that we can see and buy from the market is what good is all about. Goods, that's what good is all about. And services is something that you can't see. um, Teachers are giving you service through educational institutions. Doctors are giving you services through their medical institutions. All right. And those all these things comes under services. So market is a place where goods and services are there, and people are there in the market where there is interaction as well, right? Now I'm just telling you about the economic perspective of market, that it's a place where your consumption of goods and services takes place, right? It's an economic perspective. That's I'm telling you about the market, where people buy and sell the things, where buyers and sellers are there, producer and consumers are there. So with regarding to what? With regarding to goods and services. So that's what market is all about. And we often think of market as something which is only based on economic terms, right? And look what is written here. Market is a place of interaction. Interaction between whom? Interaction between buyers and consumers. Interaction between producers and consumers in respect to goods and services. And I've already told you that what is good, what are goods, and what are services are all about, right? So it's simply that kind of interaction, or interchange of things, or transaction of the things. What is transaction? Transaction means uh, the interaction that is taking place between buyer and sellers. That's what transaction is all about, right? So that's a simple definition of market. And we are used to thinking of the market as an economic institution, and we always think market as an economic institution. But in this chapter, or with this chapter, or but this chapter will show you that the market is also a social institution in its own way. The market is market is comparable to more obviously social institutions like caste, tribe, family, that we discussed in the chapter 3. So market is, when we see market from sociological perspective, then it is just like another, all the other institutions that we understood in the previous chapter: institution of caste, institution of tribe, institution of family. It is just like all these institutions. The market is seen, when seen through sociological perspective, it's just like another institution. That's why the name of the chapter is market as a social institution. We are not going to understand market only from economic perspective, but we're going to understand market from sociological perspective as well, right? So the above definition, or the first definition that I told you about the market, was somewhere on the economic term, somewhere when we see market from the economic perspective. Now, what is social aspect of the market, or social side of the market? When here it is written that social aspect, then it means that what is that social perspective or social aspect of the market is all about: interchange and interaction of people. Look, when we go in the market, there is always interaction that we do with the shopkeepers, that we do with whosoever we meet in the market. Sometimes we meet our relatives in the market. Sometimes our friends, suddenly we see our friends suddenly in the market. So we have a interaction between people. Interaction is always there, right? When we see market from the sociological perspective, so interchange and interaction among people, interchange of products and services, and interaction means the normal talk that people do when they are there in the market, right? And we often see our relatives and friends in the market, and that's where sociological perspective comes into play. It is a place where there is exchange of information and building relationship. Obviously, exchange of information, when we will talk with each other, there will be a kind of exchange of information. Okay, so that's what exchange of information is all about. And building of relationship means we become familiar with a lot of people that we see every day in the market. We understand that, or we realize that, yes, this particular person has this job, this particular person has got this job. So we kind of build a relationship also that is there in the market, between consumer and producer and consumers, and between buyers and sellers. There is always a relationship, an exchange of information, and obviously interaction as well. And that's what sociological perspective of market is all about. Okay, so in exams it is often asked that, in exams, this is the slide. In exams it is often asked that, kindly tell the difference between sociological and economic perspective of market. And you can write that difference between sociological and economic perspective on market. Sociology deals with the market as a social institution. So sociology see market only as a social institution involving interaction. I've already told you that meeting of kin. Meeting of kin means meeting of relatives. Meeting of relatives or meeting of friends. We often see friends and kins there, right? Gossip also takes place. Dissemination of information means transmission of information. When there is exchange of information, then it is what dissemination of information is all about, right? When we do interaction, there is always exchange of information, right? And settling of marriage means, people often talk about setting up marriages of people. This is also sometimes happen in the market, right? People often talk about a lot of things, and talk about marriage also, right? When people are there in the, supposed to two relatives meet each other in the market, they may talk about, like, that boy can be married to that girl, or that girl can be married to that boy. So any kind of interaction takes place, right, in the market. That's the reason it is written here that settling of marriage takes place, etc. Okay. Okay, and the economic perspective of market is what it is all about. Economic deals with the market as an economic institution. Obviously, sociology see market as a social institution. Economic perspective, see market as an economic institution. It's as simple as you can understand this. That involve trading, buying. So these are all economic terms. Trading takes place there. Buying and selling takes place there. Distribution takes place. There is, I would say, there is flow of money. There is, that's what money is all about. People exchanging money. Sociology has nothing to do with the supply of money and trading and distribution. It has nothing to do with it has nothing to do understand all these things, but it is more of interaction of people and meeting of kins and gossips and all those things, right? So economic deals with the market as a social institution involving trading, buying, settling, distribution, money-oriented process, right? The processes that revolves around money, taking and receiving money and giving money, flow of money, all those things that economic tries to understand. The student may use an example from tribal market, village market, traditional business, communities, joint family business to explain the above. Okay, so I'm sure you have understood the difference that I wanted to make you understand about sociological and economic perspective. All right. Okay. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay. So this is a very important concept that you all must understand. Adam Smith. Adam Smith is an economist, right? And he wrote a book, and the name of that book was The Wealth of Nation. Okay. So in his book, I'm talking about Adam Smith. In his book, he gave the concept of the Invisible Hand by Adam Smith, and second concept was laissez-faire. As you can see on your screen, right on your screen, the two lines that I have highlighted, especially the red color, these are the two concepts that was given by Adam Smith and in his book The Wealth of Nation. All right. So what Adam Smith talks about about these two concepts, what he says about Invisible Hand by Adam Smith and Lazy Sphere. So what does he actually says about all these things is that, look at that, I'm using my cursor to actually show you from where I'm reading. Adam Smith, who in his book The Wealth of Nation attempted to understand the market economy that was just emerging in the 18th century. Look what was happening in the Europe. I'm talking about all the countries that are there in the Europe. What was happening in the 18th century? The industries were being set up, and due to industries, markets were also coming, you know, and all these things were happening in the 18th century, right? So market was coming into being, and economic, obviously when there is a market, obviously there is an economic aspect also that comes along with it, because economic, as I've already told you, the economy is something that is a structure, that is a state, that is a condition where consumption and production, or production and consumption of goods takes place, buyers and sellers, do all those things that they do. Okay, so that is what. So market also coming, industries were also coming in the 18th century. So at that particular time, Adam Smith came with this work in the form of book that he had written, The Wealth of Nation. So next paragraph. Smith argued that the market economy is made of series of individual exchanges and transactions. Obviously, in market there is a series of individual exchange and transactions that takes place among people, right? Which automatically create a functioning and ordered system. This happens even though none of the individual involved in the millions of transactions had intended to create a system. Each person looks only to their own self-interest, but in the pursuit of this self-interest, the interests of all the society also seem to be looked after. In this sense, there seems to be some sort of an unseen force at work that convert what is good for each individual and what is good for society. And this unseen force was called as Invisible Hand by Adam Smith. Look, what happens here is that you got to understand one thing. Look, at this time, I can actually give you example, relating to the present situation that is going on right now. Look, right now, no one is involved. I'm talking about this COVID-19 situation right now. Is any market going on? No, no market is going on, because people are not involved in it, right? People are not involved in it. So no market is going on, right? No market is going on. Everything is shut down right now. So what does it means? It means that interaction of people is very important for running the market. Is it clear? Is it clear till now? Interaction of people is very important to run the market. Transactions that takes place between people or among people is very important to run a market. So it means that people has talking about the people, all those people have a lot of role to play in running of the market, right? It's important to do that, right? So what happens when a market is running? Actually, everyone is looking for their own interest. A shopkeeper is interested in selling his products. The workers that are working in the factories, the workers that are working in the industries, they are working there for their own interest, because they want to earn their livelihood. They want to attain or obtain the income from the industries or the factories in which they are working. The industrialist who is owning the factory, he wants to create more and more products so that he can supply those products in the market. So everyone, right from industrialists to workers working in the industries, factories, the shopkeepers, right, all those people wanted to you know wanted to earn money, wanted to earn their livelihood. So eventually everyone is there in the market, everyone is there in the entire scenario, working for themselves, working or thinking about their own interest, right? No one is actually looking for any others, for the interest of other people. Is there anyone who is looking for the interest of other people? No, no one is. Everyone is indulged for their own interest. But what happens here is that people are fulfilling their interest, and when their interests are fulfilling, automatically the interest of the society is also being fulfilled with their own interests. So when interest of all these people that are involved in the market, when interest of all these people are getting fulfilled, automatically the interest of society is also being fulfilled. So what you have understood here is that it is something that is invisible, right? We know that the reality is everyone is looking for their own interest, right? But there is an unseen force that is actually running the entire market, that is actually helping the entire market to become successful, right? And that unseen force becomes the invisible hand, right? That's what Adam Smith wants to say here. He says that, look at that, what he has written. Smith argued that the market economy is made of series of individual exchange and transactions. Obviously, a lot of individuals are, there in the market that are, actually helping the market to run. But the reality is that everyone is looking for their own interest, right? And when they are fulfilling their own interest, it is automatically fulfilling the interest of the society. And that's the reason market is going on, and that's the reason society as well is going on with it, right? So it's a series of actions, right? The things are being produced in the industries, then by the workers, then those things are coming in the market, and market shopkeepers are selling those products, and consumers like us, we are getting all those things that we should get. So it's a cycle that is going on. It's a smooth process that is going on. Eventually it is fulfilling, at the end it is fulfilling the goals of society. No one is trying to make an order, but it is automatically becoming, because it is, why it is automatically becoming, because everyone is interested to fulfill their needs. That's the reason. This is a process that is going on, and this is something that is unseen. This is something that is unseen, and something which is unseen automatically becomes invisible, right? So that's what Adam Smith wants us to understand here. So series of interaction exchanges takes place, which automatically create a functioning and order system. Obviously, when everyone is involved in doing something or the other for their own interest, it is somewhere helping or creating a good functioning for the entire society. This happens even though none of the individuals know the millions of transactions. No one is actually trying to create a system, but since they want to fulfill their own self-interest, that is resulting in the functioning and ordered functioning of the society or the market, right? Each person looks only to their own self-interest. I've already told you that. But in the pursuit of their self-interest, the interest of all or of a society also seems to be looked after. Okay, I've already told you this. In this sense, this seems to be some sort of unseen force at work that converts what is good for each individual into what is good for society. Obviously, something that is good for individual automatically is becoming good for the society, right? And this is what unseen force is all about. And this unseen force, Adam Smith called this force as invisible hand by Adam Smith. So kindly text me if you've understood this invisible hand by Adam Smith. Kindly text me if you've understood this concept. Okay. Okay. So we'll move forward now. Okay. Thus, Smith argued that the capitalist economy is driven by individual self-interest. So, how the market or how the economy is driven? It is driven by the individual self-interest, right? And works best when individual buyers and sellers make rational decisions that serve their own self-interest. Smith used the idea of invisible hand to argue that society overall benefits when individuals pursue their own self-interest in the market, because it stimulates the economy and creates more wealth. Okay, for this reason Smith supported the idea of free market, that is market free from all kinds of regulations, where whether all the state or otherwise. This economic philosophy was given by laissez-faire, a French phrase that gives leave alone or let it be. So what happens, and Adam Smith also says one thing, that a market works best when we leave everything on seller and buyer. When we leave everything on seller and buyer, look, only that thing is going to come in the market, only that thing is going to come in the economic system which is required most by the individuals. So it means that something that is demanded is always going to come in the market and people are going to get it, right? So this is how demand and supply is all about, right? So this is what happens. And Adam Smith actually says that, what he says that market or economy works best when we leave everything on buyers and sellers, right? And what does I mean when I'm saying that everything is actually, left for the buyers, and everything is, decided by buyers and sellers? I think this should always be there. And this particular concept is lazy sphere. Now look at this, particular word, lazy sphere, a French phrase that means leave alone or let it be. Look, when we actually, allow buyers and sellers to buy things and to actually sell the things that is in huge demand, then we say that that is a free market. Look, government can also interfere in the system of economy. Government can also interfere in the functioning of the market. How government can interfere? Government can actually impose a lot of restrictions. Government can impose a lot of charges on the market. They can impose a lot of taxes on the market on certain products, right? So government can actually interfere in the market. But free market, look at this particular word, free market. Free market is that market in which we allow individuals, we allow buyers and sellers to actually see what is good for them, right? When we leave everything on them and let them decide, what is in demand and what is not in demand, when government is not interfering in the system or the functioning of the market, that is what free market is all about, right? That is what free market is all about. And that's the reason Smith or supported the idea of free market. He supported the idea of free market, and out of free market, this word comes out, lazy sphere. Lazy sphere is a French phrase that means leave alone. Who is being left alone? The people who are working in the market are being left alone. And let it be means let them decide what is good for them. Let them decide what is not good for them. So remember that lazy sphere means leave alone, or let it be comes out of free market. So that's what Adam Smith was trying to make us understand in his book Wealth of Nation. I'm sure you have understood the invisible hand by Adam Smith. I'm sure you have understood lazy sphere concept, that how it comes out of free market, when we allow people to actually decide what is good for them, what is not good for them, when government is not indulging, more in the market, or when government is not interfering more in the market or in the economy, and not putting, a lot of restrictions, not putting a lot of taxes on people, and giving them their, chance to see, how they can run the market. Okay, so that's what we need to understand. Okay, so that was what this concept was all about. Okay. So this is another concept, sociological perspective. Sociological perspective means sociological view. I've written in the bracket view. Sociological perspective means sociological view of market. Look, when we discuss sociological perspective of market, I've already told you, we talk about the exchange of, uh, exchange of information between people, dissemination of information, and then we talk about interaction that takes place between people or kin, right? So that's what sociological perspective is all about. But it's important to give example also. When we give example, then, things become more clear, and that's what you need to understand here. We're going to talk about sociological perspective, and I've already told a lot about that. Sociologists view market as a social institution. So, as I've already told you, that sociological views market as a social institution that are constructed in the cultural specific ways. For example, market are often controlled or organized by particular social group or classes that have specific connections to other institutions. Social processes and structures. Okay, sociologists often express this idea by saying that economies are socially embedded. This is illustrated by two examples. One of the weekly tribal hut, that is what market is all about, and the other of a traditional business community and its trading networks in colonial India. A weekly tribal market in Dhaurai village, that is there in Bastar district, Chhattisgarh, in most agrarian or peasant societies around the world. Okay, so what we need to understand here is that we need to understand that in the colonial period, or when Britishers were there in India, or even before the colonial period, the markets were very much influenced by the uh, society's set rules and regulations. So market was very much based on the, caste system. A market was very much based on, giving more chance to a particular society or to a particular community. So that's all those things that were going on at that particular time. Okay, so what happens? Mhm. Okay. So a weekly tribal market in Dohrai village. Look, in Chhattisgarh state, there is a district, Bastar district, and in that particular district, there is a village, Dohrai village. So in that particular village, there used to be a market, है ना? There used to be a market. In most agrarian peasant societies around the world, periodic markets areas central feature of the social and economic organization. Weekly markets bring together people from surroundings, villages who come to sell the agriculture or the other products, and to buy manufactured goods and other items that are not available in their villages. They attract traders from outside the local areas as the money lenders, entertainers, astrologers, and host of other specialists offering their services and goods. Okay, so what used to happen in this particular Dohrai village? There used to be a weekly market, and that weekly market. In that particular weekly market, many people would come and gather at a particular place, and that particular place was the Dohrai village. And people used to come, from different areas to buy and to sell products, and the villagers had a lot of traders who used to attract, people from different villages. That's the reason villagers were coming in that particular village, right? So basically, what is happening here is that we are trying to understand this market from the sociological perspective with this example, right? Where many money lenders would come here. Money lenders means people who give money on lend, right? Who lend money, right? And after that, those people, you know uh, extract that money with a lot of interest. So a lot of money lenders would come in that market, entertainers, right? Astrologers and host of other specialists offering their services and goods. So a lot of people used to come in this particular market, right? And by observing that particular market, we understood the sociological perspective. That's the reason the example of this particular village has been given here. Observation of the Rai weekly market by Alfred Gell. So what this particular person, Alfred Gell, wants to say, according to Alfred Gell, 1982, the anthropologist who studied Dohrai, the market has significance much beyond its economic function. For example, the layout means display of the market symbolizes the hierarchical intergroup social relationships in this region. Uh, Different social groups are located according to their position, their caste and social hierarchy, as well as in the market. The wealthy and high-ranking Rajput dwellers and the middle-ranking local Hindus traders in the several central zones, and the tribal sellers of vegetables in the local wares, and for instance, interactions between tribals are not very different. So what is happening here? We are understanding the sociological perspective of the market. We have understood the example of this Dohrai village in which there used to be a market, and what happened, what used to happen in that market. A lot of people would come here, and you know, people used to sit according to their caste. People used to sit according to their caste, because at that time there was, a lot of influence was there on regarding this particular, caste institution, and institution of caste had a lot of influence at that particular time. So people used to have, sitting according to their caste. Many people, uh, like higher caste people, would sit at the center in the main, area of that market, and the people who would have the lower caste would sit away from the market. So by observing that market, we could easily understand the sociological perspective out of that. People used to sell their vegetables, and people used to sell their, goods that they have, that they have prepared at their home, right? So there was a lot of buying and selling that used to take place in this particular market. For instance, interaction between tribals and non-people states are very different between. So interactions were also very different. Look, when two groups are talking, if they belong to non-tribal communities, they would interact in a one way. But if two people or two different people are talking, one belongs to a tribal community, another belongs to non-tribal community, they would interact in a different way, right? Maybe a person who is non-tribal would remain away from the tribal person, or keeping some kind of distance between them. So Alfred Gell, he observed all these things that used to happen in this market, right? In this market that used to be there in Doharai village, right? So that's what he has, tried to understand by understanding the situation of the market, understanding the layout. Layout means display. When we see at the market, we could easily see, how institution of caste has, influence on it. We used to understand all these things. Okay, so according to Alfred Gill, the market has significance much beyond its economic functions. So not only economic functions were going on, the sociological functions were also going on. So significance of market means meaning of the market. What this Alfred Gill, understands out of this market. He understood certain things. He observed certain things in the market. Layout of the market symbolizes the hierarchical intergroup social relations in the region. So layout means display. When this person, this anthropologist or sociologist, or when this observer see the market, what would he observe? He would observe that people who belongs to non-tribal community are sitting at the right place, and people who are not sitting, who doesn't belong to, non-tribal community or non-tribal people, are sitting away from the group. So he could feel that, hierarchy that was there. He could feel that, different levels that would be provided to the people, right? So that's what he understood. Different social groups are located according to their position in the caste and social hierarchy, as well as in the market system. I've already told you that this had a lot of influence, right? Caste system had a lot of influence. So people used to sit according to their caste, in the market, who are selling, the products in the market. The quality of social relations is expressed in the kinds of goods and services that are brought and sold. The quality of social relations is expressed kind of goods and the quality of social relations is expressed in the kinds of goods that are brought and sold. So we could feel that if tribal community is there, they are going to sell different products. They are going to sell the forest products that they had collected from their villages. So they're going to sell those things. So by seeing that, buying and selling, by seeing that goods and services being sold there, we could easily understand the sociological perspective that I really want to make you understand, right? Interactions between tribal and non-tribal group were different. Already told you, given you the example that how there was there was a distinction between the interaction that people had with the tribal and non-tribal people. So these were all those things that this particular person, Alfred, understood by observing the Dohrai village weekly market that used to, that used to be organized in that particular village. Okay, so I'm sure you have understood this as well. If not, or if you've understood, kindly text me. Okay, we are left with only a few minutes now. Kindly text me. Are you really sitting on the other side or not? First of all, clear me this thing. Okay. Okay. So we are left with only a few minutes, about 2 minutes. So I'm going to end this session in 2 minutes, right? So what we have understood today, let's have a small recap, or let's recapitulate what we understood. We understood market as in these simple terms. We understood market in economic aspect and in that sociological aspect as well. We understood both the things, and remember that we have understood the sociological aspect or sociological perspective of the market by understanding the example or understanding the observation that Alfred Gell did, right? So he did that observation to understand the sociological perspective of the market. We understood the economic aspect, we understood the social aspect of the market, and this is the slide through which you can really understand the difference between sociological and economic perspective of market. market. And then we understood the concept that is given by Adam Smith in his book The Wealth of Nation, in which he talked about the invisible hand by Adam Smith. And then obviously laissez-faire means let it be or leave alone. That comes out of free market, when government is not interfering a lot in the market, and concept of laissez-faire comes out of it. And we understood this as well. We are just left with 1 minute and few seconds. Okay. Then we understood sociological perspective again by referring this particular market that used to be there in Dohrai village, Bastar district, Chhattisgarh, that used to happen here in this market. We understood this as well, right? So what this particular person Alfred understood or observed in his observation of this market, he unleashes or he uncover all those things, how people used to sit in the market, how people used to interact in the market, what used to they sell and what they used to sell and not, all those things he understood. We understood all these things and he made us understand all those things. I'm sure you have understood everything until now. Okay, so time has come to say you goodbye, right? Okay, until then, take care all, stay home, stay safe, and I would say study hard at your home, and kindly attend the class at right time so that we can really utilize our time, you know and I hope you will study hard and do revise the chapters that I've covered with you, chapter number 2 and chapter number 3. I'm providing you PPT so that you can find it easy to understand everything. Okay, so until then, take care all, stay safe, bye bye everyone. Okay.